his characters are able to, they have such flaws in them, they have such innate flaws in them, and they're so beautifully expressed throughout the whole film, and then the stakes just go higher and higher, right? So now because the flaws of the character are so well expressed throughout the film, he doesn't need to externalize too much throughout the film to make sure something is going wrong. Hello, namaste, vanakkam, what's going on? Today I am going to tell you how to write a good protagonist in your film. The reason I'm making videos like this is because मुझे नहीं लगता कि इंडियन यूट्यूब के सीन में कोई ऐसा क्रिएटर है जो बताता है तुम्हें कि नॉर्मल मूवीज कैसे बनाते हैं. When I just got interested in making films and everything, I noticed that I was looking at a lot of American creators on YouTube who were teaching people how to make a lot of films, but then I always wanted like a desi touch to it, क्योंकि Bollywood ये लोग समझते नहीं है Americans, क्योंकि there is a different take to a lot of things in our Indian film industry, and I think it calls for like a more unique approach to cinema. I'm very interested in sort of merging the two genres, I mean not even genres, merging the two ways of filmmaking with like Hollywood and Bollywood, because I feel like Bollywood has its own uniqueness to it and everything. So karte hain. Let's talk about a few ways that you can improve your writing in terms of a protagonist specifically. And the reason why this matters is because your protagonist is obviously the most important character in your film. He's the one or she's the one who's about to change throughout the course of the narrative. तुम्हारा जो protagonist है वो तुम्हारे पूरी स्टोरी का एक thematic question utter करता है. Thematic question होता क्या है? A thematic question for any film is the philosophical undertone to that film. तो एक चीज होती है स्टोरी और एक प्लॉट. स्टोरी अगर ये बेस लाइन है, प्लॉट इसके ऊपर वाला है, समझ रहे हो? सो द स्टोरी इज द बेस लाइन फॉर द प्लॉट. द प्लॉट इज समथिंग दैट पीपल सी, स्टोरी इज समथिंग पीपल एनालाइज, पीपल अंडरस्टैंड. प्लॉट इज व्हाट लिटरली हैपेंस थ्रू आउट द होल नैरेटिव, एंड स्टोरी इज व्हाट द मीनिंग ऑफ दोज प्लॉट पॉइंट्स आर. Story is a much deeper rooted thing. It's what makes you feel emotional. Plot is just what brings things forward, तो तुम्हें अंडरस्टैंड करना पड़ेगा. इसमें एक कॉन्सेप्ट है एक्सटर्नल और इंटरनल की. What does this mean? External is where the plot is. External is how the character is externalizing things. Internal is what the character is thinking. How the character is thinking. ये अब तुम्हारे स्टोरी के इसमें आता है. तुम ले लो अगर इम्तियाज अली को, ठीक है, उसके स्टोरीज हमेशा बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरनलाइज होते हैं. उसके सारे के सारे कैरेक्टर्स अपने फीलिंग्स को बड़ी इंटरनल तरीके से दिखाते हैं. दैट्स व्हाई आई फील इम्तियाज अली हैज अ टफर टाइम टू मेक कमर्शियल फिल्म्स इन दिस आजकल के टाइम पे, क्योंकि इट्स टफर फॉर हिम टू एक्सटर्नलाइज दिस थिंग्स. इट्स टफर फॉर हिम टू एक्सटर्नलाइज सच एब्स्ट्रैक्ट कॉन्सेप्ट्स इन योर हेड. इंटरनल और एक्सटर्नल के चक्कर में एक और चीज है, is that internal is mostly your flaws, hopes, dreams, desires and struggles to get to where they want to get to, It's basically the brain and the heart and what governs them. It's basically unke andar kya hai, character kya hai. The external part of it is the obstacles that shape their point of view. It's the good kind of scarring that they endure also. Put yourself in the shoes of your protagonist and ask, what are the scars, what are the obstacles that I am supposed to bear? Because eventually when the inciting incident happens, whether or not the character he still makes a decision to go forward with whatever he's going forward with. So that makes a difference for sure. Both are important. You need to understand कि internal और external दोनों factors आने चाहिए तुम्हारे protagonist के अंदर, कि तुम्हारा protagonist internally क्या express कर रहा है चीजों को and externally क्या express कर रहा है. तो I think the best way, at least in Hindi cinema, to express any sort of internal situation in a character's head is through montage, right? It's through songs, it's through music. I feel like no other film industry does this as well as we do. Kabira, for example, from Ye Jawani Hai Diwani is such a good example of this. There's not much happening, if you really think about it. There's a lot more internal stuff happening, but the aesthetic really adds up to what the character is thinking. तो ये internal part हो गया. External part क्या होता है? It's basically how the character talks, what the character says to somebody. अगर तुम्हारे character ने कुछ ज़्यादा ही extreme कुछ कर दिया तो these two things you need to understand. Internal क्या होता है, external क्या होता है, so you can sort of weave these things into your narrative, weave these things into your writing, so you have a good understanding about the fact कि मेरा story एक तो boring नहीं हो रहा है, because it's not just plot, not just things happening and then nothing makes a difference in the story aspect of it. ये नहीं होना चाहिए. ऊपर से things shouldn't get too abstract. Your audience shouldn't not know what to think. They need to have, your character needs to externalize things so that the audience is engaged enough with the story of the narrative. तो ये आइडिया है बेसिकली. अगर तुम अपने स्टोरी के अंदर एक्सटर्नल और इंटरनल दोनों अच्छे तरीके से मर्ज कर लो ना अपने कैरेक्टर के, नो वन कैन टेल यू अदरवाइज कि कैरेक्टर को बेटर करो, क्योंकि तुमने एक इतनी ब्यूटीफुल तरीके से एक्सप्लेन करा होगा कि तुम्हारा कैरेक्टर सोच क्या रहा है. एंड बट लेट मी गिव यू लाइक अ कपल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस यू कैन आस्क योरसेल्फ व्हेन यू हैव अ गुड अमाउंट लाइक अ नाइस कैरेक्टर रेडी इन योर फिल्म एंड यू जस्ट वांट टू मेक श्योर दैट इट्स एन इंटरेस्टिंग कैरेक्टर. You need to ask, अगर तुम्हारा जो स्टेटस को है तुम्हारे कैरेक्टर का, which is basically before the inciting incident, whatever your character is like, उसका वर्ल्ड क्या है, उसका दिमाग क्या है before like he's propelled into the story. You need to ask कि उन सारे characteristics के साथ what happens if. That is the important question you're supposed to ask. Let's say for example there's someone who is completely conflict averse, he hates conflict, but what happens if he is propelled to do so because his girlfriend forces him to fight his ex or something like that. It's a stupid example, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. What happens if someone is compelled to do something they're not capable of? That is such a brilliant question to ask yourself in terms of how to make your character interesting. अगर तुम्हारा protagonist एक underdog है ना, ये भी, this is another point. If your character is an underdog, basically you have an advantage in the sense that an audience always prefers to emotionally indulge with an underdog because they relate to it more, right? That's why Superman is such a tough character to write for, because he's perfect, he has no flaws at all. So he's a very tough character to write. That's why also Imtiaz Ali, again, that's why Imtiaz Ali's films work so well, in the sense ki, forget the internal external for this part, but in terms of the fact ki his characters are able to, they have such flaws in them, they have such innate flaws in them, and they're so beautifully expressed throughout the whole film, and then the stakes just go higher and higher, right? So now because the flaws of the character are so well expressed throughout the film, he doesn't need to externalize too much throughout the film to make sure something is going wrong. Another question you can sort of ask yourself when you're building your protagonist is, actually it's not much of a question, but it's more like, what are two adjectives that oppose each other, that are opposite adjectives that can go with your character? This just makes your character a little bit more interesting in the sense that he or she has a conflict within themselves that they need to solve. Like for example, if a person is a news anchor but they are conflict averse, that means that it's sort of like an oxymoron, right? How can someone be conflict averse and be a news anchor? They have to host debates, they have to have intellectual conversations. How is it going to happen? This is another conflict in itself. तुम्हारा protagonist already इतना interesting हो चुका है, तुम्हें plot की इतनी जरूरत भी नहीं है. You don't have to propel your character into doing more things because you have it sorted right there. Your character itself is so interesting. उसके ambitions ही इतनी interesting है. So think about two adjectives that don't go together and then put it together to see what character you build. But yeah, these are the few ways that I wanted to tell you कि तुम अपना character, अपना protagonist better कैसे कर सकते हो. And I know this is just the first of the many kind of videos I'm gonna put out there for you guys to understand कि फिल्में बनाए कैसे, right? तो like करो, share करो, comment करो, subscribe करो अगर तुमने अभी तक करा नहीं है, क्योंकि इतना बार content ला रहा हूँ ना तुम लोगों के लिए. It's gonna be crazy, it's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited. I hope you enjoyed this video. अगर अच्छा लगा तो फिर सब कुछ कर दो. Please share it with people who are interested in films. Please share it with people who are interested in writing in anything creative at all. But yes, thank you so much for watching this video. I will catch you later. Until next time.
हरा 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 बैग में ग्रीन CCTV फ्लैट मेरा स्क्रीन क्रीम का मैं क्रॉप तेरा क्रॉप का मैं क्रीम पे वो मांग रही मेरा नंबर उसे रखूं सीधा सीन पे दुश्मन मेरी नींद बैग में पूरा ग्रीन